The Spanish-American War, 1898, a conflict that would forever alter the course of history for several nations. It was a war that saw the United States emerging as a new imperial power, flexing its military might and expanding its reach across the globe. America, flexing its muscles on the world stage, snatched up territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. These acquisitions were not just about land. They were about asserting dominance and showcasing the United States as a formidable force. The war had ended, but the real battle was just beginning. Victory parades marched through the streets, with citizens celebrating what they believed was a triumph of democracy and freedom. Flags waved, bands played, and the air was thick with patriotic fervor. But behind the fanfare, a sinister legal battle was brewing, one that would have far-reaching consequences for the newly acquired territories and their inhabitants. This was the dawn of the Insular Cases, a series of Supreme Court rulings that would stain America's soul. These cases would determine the fate of millions of people living in the new territories, setting a precedent that would echo through the corridors of power for decades to come. These cases weren't about freedom or democracy. They were about something far more insidious. They were about defining who was worthy of the full rights and privileges of American citizenship and who was not. They were about drawing lines and creating divisions. They were about power and control. The United States government, through these legal battles, sought to maintain its grip on the new territories while denying their inhabitants the same rights enjoyed by those on the mainland. It was a calculated move, one that revealed the true nature of American imperialism. They were about deciding who gets rights and who gets left behind. The people of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines found themselves in a precarious position, caught between their own aspirations for self-determination and the harsh realities of American rule. Protests and demonstrations erupted, but their voices were often drowned out by the machinery of power. America, the self-proclaimed champion of liberty, was about to write a new chapter in its history, one of hypocrisy and dispossession. The ink? Legal precedent. The Statue of Liberty, a symbol of freedom and hope, stood in stark contrast to the reality faced by those in the new territories. The American flag, a symbol of unity, now represented division and exclusion for many. The victims? Millions of people living in newly acquired territories. Their lives were forever changed by the decisions made in distant courtrooms, by judges who had never set foot in their lands. They were subjected to new laws and regulations, their cultures and traditions often disregarded or suppressed. Their crime? Being different in the eyes of a nation drunk on its own imperial ambitions. The United States, in its quest for power, had overlooked the humanity of those it sought to control. The Insular Cases were a stark reminder that the ideals of freedom and equality could be easily compromised in the pursuit of dominance. This chapter in American history serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of standing up for justice and equality for all. The Insular Cases created a two-tiered system of American citizenship. These landmark decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court in the early 20th century set the stage for a divided nation where the rights and privileges of citizenship were not equally distributed. Imagine a line drawn in the sand, but instead of sand, it's the Constitution. This line was not just a metaphorical boundary, but a legal demarcation that separated the haves from the have-nots in the American territories. On one side, incorporated territories, on a fast track to statehood, their residents embraced as full-fledged Americans. These territories were seen as extensions of the mainland, destined to become states with all the rights and responsibilities that come with it. On the other, unincorporated territories deemed different, foreign, not ready for prime time. These regions were considered too alien to be fully integrated into the United States, their people viewed as second-class citizens. Guess who ended up on the wrong side of that line? The answer lies in the names of the territories that were left out in the cold. You got it, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. These territories, rich in culture and history, found themselves on the periphery of American democracy. These territories, populated by people of color, were deemed unfit for full American citizenship. The racial undertones of these decisions cannot be ignored, as they reflect the prejudices and biases of the era. Their fate? To be ruled, not represented. The people of these territories were subject to American laws and governance, but had no say in the creation of those laws. To be governed, not empowered. Despite their contributions to the American fabric, they were denied the fundamental rights that come with citizenship. The Insular Cases created a legal framework for colonialism, plain and simple. These decisions institutionalized a form of American colonialism where the United States could expand its territories without extending full constitutional rights to all its inhabitants. Over the years, the people of these territories have fought tirelessly for their rights, demanding equality and representation. Their struggle is a testament to the enduring spirit of those who refuse to be marginalized. Today, the legacy of the Insular Cases still lingers, but the fight for justice continues. The story of these territories is a reminder that the quest for equality is far from over. As we reflect on this tale of two Americas, we must ask ourselves, what kind of nation do we want to be? One that upholds the principles of equality and justice for all, or one that continues to draw lines in the sand? The choice is ours, and the time to act is now. Let's call the Insular Cases what they are, a product of their time, a time when the very fabric of American society was interwoven with the threads of racial prejudice and discrimination. This was an era where racism was as American as apple pie, deeply ingrained in the everyday lives of people, from the segregated schools and public spaces to the discriminatory laws that governed the land. The Supreme Court justices who decided these cases? They weren't blind to the racial dynamics at play. They were active participants, fully aware of the implications of their decisions. These justices, cloaked in the authority of the highest court in the land, wielded their power to shape the destiny of millions. They believed, straight up, that the people in these territories, mostly brown and black folks, weren't ready for self-government. This belief wasn't based on any objective assessment of the capabilities of these people, but rather on deeply entrenched racial prejudices. They used dehumanizing language, calling the inhabitants of these territories alien races, savage tribes, and unfit for statehood. These terms weren't just casual insults. They were deliberate tools used to strip these people of their humanity and justify their subjugation. These weren't just words. They were weapons wielded to justify America's imperial ambitions. The language of the Insular Cases served to legitimize the expansion of American territory and the exploitation of its new subjects. The Insular Cases were never about what was right or just. They were about cementing white supremacy in the legal fabric of America. These decisions laid the groundwork for a legal system that treated people of color as second-class citizens, a legacy that continues to haunt us to this day. The territories affected by the Insular Cases, places like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines, became laboratories for American colonial rule. The inhabitants of these territories were subjected to a different set of laws and rights, reinforcing the idea that they were somehow less deserving of the full benefits of American citizenship. The military presence in these territories was a constant reminder of their subjugation. American soldiers and administrators imposed their will on the local populations, often with little regard for their customs, traditions, or desires. But the people in these territories didn't just accept their fate. They resisted, protested, and fought for their rights. Their struggles were a testament to their resilience and their unwavering belief in their own humanity. The Insular Cases may have been decided over a century ago, but their impact is still felt today. The legal precedents set by these cases continue to influence the way the United States treats its territories and their inhabitants. As we reflect on the legacy of the Insular Cases, we must confront the ugly truths about our past and recognize the ways in which these decisions have shaped our present. Only by acknowledging and addressing these injustices can we hope to build a more just and equitable future for all. The fight against legal racism is far from over. It requires a collective effort to dismantle the systems of oppression that have been built over centuries. It demands that we listen to the voices of those who have been marginalized and work together to create a society where everyone is truly equal. The Insular Cases serve as a stark reminder of the power of the law to both oppress and liberate. It is up to us to ensure that the law is used as a tool for justice, rather than a weapon of discrimination. Let us learn from the past and strive to create a future where the ugly face of legal racism is finally eradicated, and where the principles of equality and justice are upheld for all.